We see decimals every day, but what is a decimal? Decimals are parts of a whole. So when you see a decimal, you have a part of a whole. So when you see decimals in terms of money, you don't have a whole dollar, you might have some change. So that change is part of the dollar. You don't have the entire dollar, you have parts. So decimals are parts of wholes. Here, let's pretend this is your whole. Now wholes come in different shapes and sizes. So let's say this is our whole. And nothing is shaded in this whole right now, so there is 0, right? Now, if I were to shade part of this, okay, what decimal is shaded? Well, if you look at our whole, there's 100 pieces in our whole, and 10 of them are shaded. So there's two ways you can say this. 10 out of the 100 are shaded, so then the decimal could be 10 hundredths. Or you can think, well, there's 10 strips going down this whole, and one of the strips is shaded, so then that's 1/10 is shaded, and 1/10 written as a decimal looks like that. Now, are these the same amount? Yes, they are, because we can just add an extra 0, and that doesn't change up the value. 1/10 is the same thing as 10 hundredths. Now, let's look at this. There's 100 pieces. One of them shaded, so then we shaded 1 out of 100, so our decimal is 1/100th. That 1 has to be in the hundredth spot because we have 100 pieces and 1 out of the 100 is shaded. Now let's look at this second part. What do decimals look like in pictures? Well, this is read 2 wholes, so there's 2 and 34 hundredths. So that means you got 2 entire wholes, so we're going to shade this whole thing and this whole thing, and then 34 hundredths would mean that we would only shade 34 out of the 100 pieces on our last part. So then 2 and 34 hundredths, we would have to shade this entire whole. That's 1 whole. This is 2 wholes. And 34 hundredths would be 34 pieces out of the 100. So that's 10, 20, 30, 34. So that would be 2 and 34 hundredths shaded. Now if I were to change this into a fraction, that would equal 2 wholes and 34 hundredths, right? And if I were to simplify this fraction, divide it by 2 over 2, it would be 2 and 17 fiftieths. That would be my final fraction. So you can actually change decimals into fractions as well, and we'll talk about that later. Last thing, let's look at a number line. How do decimals look on a number line? So this is 9/10. Let's say I put my 0 over here. Now I need to figure out how much each tally is worth. Since I'm trying to graph 9/10, I'm going to say each tally is 1/10. So this would be 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, and then here, this one right here would be 9/10. And the tally right after the 9/10, well, it would be 10/10, but 10 out of 10 would equal 1 whole. So your whole would be right there. That would be 1 whole. So there's 9/10, there's a whole. Now, if each tally was a whole, like let's say 1 whole was here, then 9/10 would be right there. 9/10 is almost a whole, but not quite. Like if I give you 9/10 of my candy bar, you almost got the whole candy bar, but I saved 1/10 for myself. So you got almost all of it, but not quite. So 9/10 is always going to be close to 1 whole. If your whole is here, 9/10 is here. If your whole is right here, 9/10 would have been right before the whole.